Let's start with why I'm doing this video. Hollow Knight has, at the time of writing, 96% positive reviews on Steam, and I had tried it and bounced off within a few hours. I had no idea what people saw in this game. Now, I can be somewhat critical, but I can usually at least see the appeal of a game even if I don't like it personally. With Hollow Knight fans being very vocal about how much of a masterpiece it is, I felt like I was missing out. There's a Eurogamer article by Dom Pepia that put this game in my head rent-free for a couple weeks. This is the first paragraph.
It's not just locked doors, imposing bosses, and top-tier traversal. It's a world, a sensation, a desperate and lonely feeling communicated through screen and pad. It's chains and foliage obscuring the foreground as impossibly huge bugs slink about in the background. The depth of parallax art and the grit of an impossible fight. The feeling of movement as you flap your wings, or dash over pits, or scramble up walls. The world is dying, but you feel alive and vital within it. From vanishingly small beginnings to power comparable to godhood, Hollow Knight isn't just a good game, it's one of the best ever made.
Again, I had tried that game and didn't much care for it, but Dom is talking about it like it was the second coming of Christ himself, and I could not for the life of me understand. So I tried it again, and the same thing happens. I quit while in Green Path a couple hours in. I'm not having any fun. What am I missing? What the hell is happening? Am I crazy? The disparity between my experience and everyone else's is probably the largest that I've ever had for a game. I usually can like pretty much anything that's good, right? I like good games. There's very few games that are like well regarded within their genre that I don't like, okay? I have pretty broad taste, so this just makes me more confused. So I put the game down, and sometime later, Silksong releases to loads of fanfare and apparently also some discourse, which is interesting. But Hollow Knight creeps back into my head again. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to finish this game, and if I still don't like it, at least it'll be an interesting video because apparently I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't like it. I have since beaten the game with 112% completion, and while my thoughts have shifted somewhat, I think I've earned an opinion that you might find interesting. To start at the beginning, Hollow Knight's early game is bad. I recorded my whole playthrough because I wanted to have access to my thoughts in the moment while playing, and I'm pretty glad I did. Often with a game, you forget what it was like in the beginning, and I wanted to be able to see my reactions and feelings shift over the course of the playthrough. Here's me about an hour or two in. I gotta say, I'm not looking forward to playing more of this game. The dopamine is not present. The sameness of the environments really hurts your ability to like actually remember where anything is. I legit can't fucking tell where I am. The world's layout is really strange because like this whole right side is just a nothing burger. There's fucking nothing here. There's an NPC. There's an NPC that you talk to and he's like, damn, you know, there's an egg. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like the exploration is just fucked. Like you don't have any options. Like you're just stumbling around the world trying to find the critical path, you know? So you can't do that yet. Dude, this game fucking dead ends you all the time. All the time. Dead end. Like, brother. Are you shitting me? Are you fucking shitting me? Another fucking dead end. Dude, fuck. This game. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Nothing has happened in this fucking video game yet. So suffice it to say, I'm not having much fun. I actually did enjoy the boss fight somewhat, even during this dark period towards the beginning of the game. But exploration in the first zone is slow, dull, confusing, and unrewarding. There's a few things at play here. First off, the game commodifies literally all map functionality at every step. So what do I mean by that? You are nickel and dimed every step of the way. The map itself costs 30 geo dollars, which mercifully isn't that much early on. I had around 200 by the time I found the cartographer. So you pay for the map. Great. But you can't see your position on it. Honestly, Don't even really mind that in games. But in this case, it's a lot worse than it should be because almost every location within a zone looks the same. Normally, you can find landmarks and use your position relative to those landmarks to figure out where you are, but this is a 2D game that almost exclusively takes place in caves. The best you can do early on in Hollow Knight is just to look for a spot on the map that has exits in roughly the same places as the room that you're in. Okay, you say, but we can fix that. The shopkeeper sells a charm that tells you exactly where you are on the map. It costs 220 geo and takes up a charm slot, which are rather precious, especially in the early game. Well, by the time I got back to his shop, I had 319 geo. I'm being pretty thorough here, and I even killed a boss that I'm pretty sure most people wouldn't have even bothered with until they have the dash, but you know what, that doesn't even drop any geo, so whatever. Either way, my money is on the higher end at this point. That brings us down to 99 geo, which is one short of being able to buy anything. That sucks, whatever. Okay. Well, there's another item in this shop, the quill. Turns out, the map that you bought is not only incomplete, but it doesn't even update when you find uncharted rooms. For that functionality, you need to buy the quill for 120 more geo. And it only updates when you rest at a bench. If you're getting the feeling the map system was designed by EA, I wouldn't necessarily blame you. But that's not all. As it stands now, our map shows our position and not much else. To mark anything on this map, you have to buy pins for each thing individually. So adding marking functionality for benches, NPCs, stagways, cocoons, hot springs will all cost you 100 geo a pop. There's also the set of red and blue pins that you can place yourself that each cost 100 geo. You'll need those because early on there's so many dead ends that these 10 markers you can buy probably won't even be enough to cover them all. See, now it feels like this part of the game is a little better because it feels like you're actually like on a path. Like you can like go in a direction for a length of time without it just being like, oh, no, turn around. This isn't, don't go here yet. It's like, well, fuck, dude. Like, come on. These issues are front loaded. And once you have enough geo to buy all your map functionality, you really don't have much to spend your geo on at that point. There is the overpriced lantern that costs 1800 geo to see in the dark areas. And beyond that, you probably won't even think about geo for the rest of the game. All this early economic pressure does is make the new player experience more miserable by withholding basic map functionality that's in every other game with a map until they've played enough to accrue the money to buy it. But who does this even serve? It just makes early exploration more confusing and new players are more likely to bounce because of it. I really just can't see a good argument for this, straight up. The only reason that I can think that they did this is precisely because they noticed that there isn't much to spend your geo on in the game, so they stripped the map functionality bare and made you pay for every piece to give you something to spend your money on. It's a bad solution to a legitimate problem. For my geo, if we're insisting that the player pay for more map functionality, then I would have the cartographer sell you the whole map starter pack with the map quill and all the pins for like 150 geo, which is well within the 215 when I first saw him. You would still charge them something, but at least this way you wouldn't be fleecing the player over and over and making them go back to town to pay for the privilege of marking the countless dead ends you'll throw at them. Which leads me to the second problem with early exploration. In the beginning of a Metroidvania, you have no traversal abilities. That's pretty normal. The whole genre is about you gradually gaining access to more and more of a world via power-ups that you find while exploring. Part of the appeal is that you can usually explore the world in a few different ways and find things in a slightly different order than someone else might. Hollow Knight gets there eventually, but the first few hours it essentially is a hotel hallway with every but one door locked. I was very annoyed with how often the path I was going down ended abruptly in some obstacle that I couldn't pass just yet, because these moments are almost never accompanied by some reward that you actually can get right now, so you just have to make note of it and turn around empty-handed, which never feels good. So early on, you're lost, broke, slow, and everywhere you go has a sign that just says come back later. These problems slowly go away as you progress through the game, but early on there's really not much meat to hook a player through that annoyance. The combat in Hollow Knight is never complex. It can be challenging, especially some of the optional endgame stuff. But it is always simple. I'm having lots of fun right now. Thrilling. You try to avoid their attacks and you hit them with your attacks. Even by the end of the game, there's no block, there's no parry, there's no temporary power-up devil trigger mode. There's only the one weapon, the 3 spells, and a simple dash attack and a charged up slash attack that you use in a spin move that kind of sucks. Honestly, you're probably not even going to use the spells unless you're abusing the secret iframes that Descending Dark has for the endgame bosses. I only found out about that because I was like, damn, this is hard. What are people doing? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, this fucking random move has iframes that they didn't tell you about. Took a break from practicing this fucking boss. Then I come back and the knight is just like laying here, extremely sad looking. POV, you're fucking getting your fucking balls crushed by fucking pure vessel over and over again. You have no fucking time. Dude, what are the Descending Dark iframes?
Descending Dark can be broken into 3 phases, which I'll call the wind-up phase, the damage phase, and the recovery phase. The wind-up phase happens immediately after the knight triggers the spell. It involves the knight moving upward to begin the animation. Invincibility frames are not active in this video against absolute damage. The player knight dies as long as it triggers the wind-up phase. This one has 0.7.
Okay. The bosses are definitely the most fun the game has to offer, and that's true the whole way through, but they shine in spite of the simple combat, definitely not because of it. I would never say that Hollow Knight has great combat, I would say it has some great boss fights, and I think that's a distinction worth making. But let's come back to the early game. You have even less of the already kid-sized toolbox at your disposal here. Just the regular attack and jump, not even a dodge. So the combat in the early game isn't very challenging and therefore not very fun, so unless you just love how the game looks, you really don't have anything to cling on to at this point to get you through it. Notice I said looks and not sounds because the vast majority of what you're going to be hearing isn't really music as much as it is ambiance. It's a stylistic choice to be sure, and Green Path's music is a little better, but even the early boss themes aren't very memorable. To be clear, the composer Christopher Larkin knows how to write a banger, he just decided not to for most of the game. So okay, I've bitched and moaned enough about the early game. When does it get good? Well, I can tell you that when I noticed I was actually having fun was about 3 hours in after getting the Mantis Claw. Mantis Claw. Yo, we're fucking gaming! Yeah, this game's fucking... This game's good now. The game got good. Looking back, though, I would say the actual turning point is probably fighting Hornet and getting the dash upgrade. Partly because Hornet is cool and fighting your peer figure is always cool, but also because the dash makes traversal much faster and combat is a lot more fun when you have something to press other than attack and jump. By this point, you've probably also amassed enough geo to buy all of your map functionality, and you actually have more than one place to go. If it were up to me, though, I would have swapped the Fireball spell that you get about an hour in and the dash upgrade that you get about 2 hours in, just so that you can have the dash sooner, because it helps the game feel so much. A lot of Metroidvanias give you some kind of dash either immediately or as the very first upgrade, and I think that's for a good reason. So my main 2 criticisms of the early game are naturally less applicable once you slog through the first hour or two. I know some people are probably going to say that it makes the game somehow better if it kind of sucks at first and slowly becomes better as you play, but I'm sorry, it can start good and get better. We have the technology. Challenge? Oh shit. Oh fuck. But it does get better. I was really excited by this point because the game finally clicked. Not because of anything on my end, really, but the game finally started to show its hand. The Mantis Lords are easily the coolest thing that you'll have seen at this point, arguably in the entire game, and if you can't beat them, the game even has an NPC mention that you should probably go to the city first and upgrade your weapon, which is a nice little bit of diegetic direction giving. Hell yeah. Respect. Dude, hell yeah, the achievement is called Respect. Dude, they just bow every time. That's so cool. The game has sauce. There's no denying it. They say every game is someone's favorite, and at this point, I could finally see why so many people would say that of this one. I am not one of those people. There are things I don't like, even now, after 112% of the game being behind me, so let's break it down. While exploration gets less obnoxious later on when you have more stagways and movement abilities like the dash and super dash, which by the way, while we're on the topic, it is the worst super dash I have ever seen. Any enemy with more than 1 HP is going to stop you dead in your tracks every time, so it's really only useful for the specific platforming sections and the long empty hallways. And actually, there's probably more long empty hallways than there probably should be. But whatever, the game has you backtracking the areas you've already been to, either because you have a new ability that allows access to a previously inaccessible area, or because some quest demands it. The Grim Ritual is a particularly egregious example because it asks you to go to 3 random places in the world, fight a guy at each location, go to town, talk to Grim. Okay, great. Now there's 3 more random places with 3 more guys, so you go and do each one, go back to town, talk to Grim, do a boss fight, and now, you guessed it, you go back out 3 more times and fight 3 more guys, and you finally go back to town, and then finally you get another boss fight, if you didn't send them away. The boss fight is sick as hell, but I could do without the repetitive busy work. Point is, you're going to be treading old ground quite a bit in this game, but it still takes a while to get anywhere, even with your upgrades, and these trips back to places that you've been are never different, and they don't really serve the game in any meaningful way, they just kind of waste your time. So one thing I will say about Hollow Knight is that it does feel very intentionally designed. This is a good thing when the design is good, but obviously it means most of the problems I have with the game are intentional choices with likely some authorship in mind. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and try to imagine why they would make these decisions and give my reasoning for them being bad. So getting anywhere takes a while, but if you've been there before, it's never hard, so why would we waste the player's time like this? Well, I can only think of 2 things. The first and less convincing reason is that it makes the world feel bigger and more connected. If I made you walk around everywhere at 1 mile per hour, you're going to have a lot of time to soak in the sights, and you'll probably think wherever you're at's huge. Now, it's not like there isn't an argument here. If we assume the opposite extreme where the player could fast travel to any position at any time, it would definitely make the world feel strange and kind of small and disjointed. All of that said, I still don't think they struck the balance there. The travel back to prior locations is just a waste of time because there is nothing different when you come back, which, if it were the case, would actually help a lot with it not feeling like a chore. Well, it turns out that the one and only exception to that is the crossroads gets infected after you kill the first streamer. Coming back and seeing how the area changed was really cool, and the new enemies made it a little more interesting to travel through the old area again. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, nothing really changes when the infection hits the crossroads. There are new enemies, to be sure, and the place is more orange than it was, but that's about it. There actually is one change, though, and it sucks. Certain pathways are blocked, so you have to go the long way around them, which is kind of the opposite of what I wanted. I was hoping for new bosses, new items, new NPCs, any of those things, really, but all you get are new enemies, orange glow lights, and some roadblocks. It was a cool idea, but they definitely missed the potential there in my eyes. Okay, so why else would we force the player to backtrack slowly? Well, if you have to slowly trek all the way back, you have a lot of opportunity to catch things that you might have missed the first time. This is a somewhat legitimate point. I don't even totally disagree with it, but if you're a relatively thorough player, it's unlikely that you missed something the first time that you would notice on your speed run from point A to point B the second time. There's frankly some things I think almost nobody found on their own, like this entrance to the hive, which is the only way to get into that area, by the way. Are you fucking kidding me? What? That's fucking stupid. What? Dude, never in my life. Never in my goddamn life. Never. That's crazy. Usually you can make secrets more well hidden and kind of offset it by adding multiple ways to find it, since chances are you're going to find one of them, but not here. This slightly cracked bit of dark, craggy wall on the other side of this pit that you just run past is your only way to an entire area of the game. I had to look this one up, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone did too. So another related problem is the checkpoints. In this game, they're the benches. There's not enough of them. And this causes two problems, actually. The first being, obviously, that the walk back to where you died is often not fun because the environments simply aren't hard enough to make it a question of whether or not you can make it back to where you died. It's just kind of a question of when, which would somewhat justify the trip if it were an if, because at least if it were difficult, you would be earning every foot of progress you made, and you would kind of feel something when you actually made it back. I think the Souls games do this pretty good. The second problem is because there's not many benches, the chances of you actually missing one is pretty high. This makes the boring trip even more boring because if you went left instead of right and missed the bench, now you have to make an even longer walk back. This applies to the stag stations as well. Now, sometimes the game does try to put signs in the area around the bench or station to help you find it if you're close, but they're not always there, and the areas are so big that you're not even always close, so it remains a problem. In another instance of it gets better much later, once you get it, which takes a while, the Dream Nail, once you find 900 Essence, which takes a while, unlocks the ability to set a single warp point that you can teleport to from anywhere. This is great. It is limited to one-way travel, but you can put it almost anywhere, even right outside boss fights, so you can get rid of that annoying walk back to the boss if there's no bench close by. You can put it at a stag station to make sure you always have a quick way back to the fast travel network. It's a good feature, and you don't get access to it until like 15 hours in, which in my 112% playthrough is just short of halfway. We did it. We fucking did it. Holy shit, we did it. We fucking did it. Let's fucking go! And a good bit of that second half is just me doing the same boss rush over and over again, so by the time you get this, you're probably like in the last third or so of the actual game. Obviously, speedrunners and people who already know where everything is can rush these things, but the point is that the game itself is in no hurry to give the tools that make traversal bearable. Hollow Knight is good, but it would be a lot better if the Dream Gate were accessible sooner. More than anything, Hollow Knight is confident, and that confidence is shared by similarly great games like Breath of the Wild or Dark Souls. It's difficult to articulate, but it's a confidence that whatever this game is, it's exactly what Team Cherry wanted it to be. That proves to be totally enrapturing if the game is any good at all, because it kind of feels like calling your shot. It's walking away from the explosion without looking at it. It's good, and they know it's good, and they always knew it was good. It's good, but it's not surprising. Its primary success is taking itself seriously enough with its premise that it just kind of passively cultivates this idea that it's really good and really exceptional when it's just really competent and really confident. Every part of Hollow Knight is held to the same standard of quality. There's nothing about the game itself that feels like it didn't get enough love. The art is inspired, the lore is cool, the characters are pretty memorable, the bosses are fun, but no part of it really spoke to me as being exceptionally good. I wouldn't point to Hollow Knight as being the shining example of any particular discipline other than maybe project management. The whole game feels very whole. There's a unity to all of its parts that make them greater than their sum. Team Cherry did quite a good job, don't get me wrong, but they did not make a masterpiece here, not in my opinion at least. That word clearly means something different to me, and I don't want you to think that I don't like the game. I mean, what if they just improved the early game experience, right? That hypothetical version of the game would also be a masterpiece, I guess. You have to leave room in your language to allow for things that are better, because Team Cherry are good at this, and they could definitely do better. Let's read some more of Dom's article.
I think that's where the real appeal of Hollow Knight lies. You have proper agency when it comes to progression and exploration. A sense of proper agency I honestly have only felt in the first Dark Souls in terms of modern games. You're let loose to discover your power on your terms, pluck at various locks, and see which one comes undone, whilst also given the power to go and forge your own locks.
To be clear, no shade to Dom or anything, but I'm really not sure what forging your own locks means in this metaphor. But he's really just describing Metroidvanias, like all of them, pretty much. Hot take incoming, Hollow Knight has not innovated anything in the Metroidvania genre. I really can't think of a single thing. If Hollow Knight is special, it's not special for being somewhat open-ended. That's pretty much standard for the genre. It would be special for doing this specific combination of things well. Hollow Knight does almost everything a Souls-like does, and everything a Metroidvania does. All of its various aspects are good, but more importantly, they cohere, they gel together. The lore of something, the mechanics of that thing, the way the thing looks, where it is, it's all connected, as it should be. In my mind, that's the standard. It's a pass-fail, and yeah, most things fail where Hollow Knight succeeds here. It genuinely stumbles, though, when it comes to the new player experience sometimes. In a lot of ways, the game gets better the more you know about it, because you're better able to overlook and avoid the parts that suck. All of the game's problems depreciate as you become more accustomed to it, which is where I think that disparity I experienced came from. There's a community surrounding this game that loves it to death, probably in spite of and because of its flaws. Those early moments are disorienting and frankly boring, and for those who pushed past them, they were shocked to find how much soul the game had. The rougher edges create this in-group of people who see the game differently, and they're not even really wrong to do so. Hollow Knight is a dull caterpillar at first, but after you suffer its worst moments, you see it slowly blossom into a nicer bug, and it's hard to remember the caterpillar when staring at its wings.